Okay, today we are learning about sexual reproduction in flowering plants. Here is the introduction and here is some flower as you can see thistle, rose, daffodil, flax flower. Have you ever wondered how these flowering plant reproduce? We are going to learn about that in this video. Today we will learn about the structure of flowers, pollination and how it takes place, what fertilization is and its process. I hope you are getting the idea about what we are going to learn in this video today. This is the structure of flower. As you can see, this is the flower and we have mentioned all the parts of flower here. So you can see the most prominent part of the flower is petal. Here are the petals. Petals, what the function of petals? Petals attract pollinators and shield the delicate part inside. The delicate part of the flower is this. So petals, what petals do? They protect the delicate part of the flowers. Also, they attract pollinators. Pollinators means they attract insects because insects are more fascinating towards the colorful flower. That's why they find it attractive. What because petals are colorful, that's why they get attracted toward petals and they do pollination over the stigma. Here stigma is the here. Okay. And next part is our sepal. What sepals do? Protective structures shielding the delicate reproductive organ within. Here is the petal. And what sepals do? The sepals protect the inner reproductive part of the flower, this part. It also has a protective function. Now, next part is stigma. Here, stigma, you can see the stigma. What stigma is? Stigma is a sticky surface that captures the pollen grain. As you can see, this is the stigma and here you can see base-like structure. So if pollen grains come, they will stick to the stigma. Then this part is style. What styles is? It is the long tube that connects the stigma to the ovary. This is stigma and this is ovary. So stigma get connected to ovary with the help of the tubular structure called style. Ovary. What ovaries is? Ovary contains the ovules. This is the ovary and inside the ovary there are the presence of ovule which once fertilized will develop into the seeds. It means inside the ovary ovule is present and ovule get converted into the seeds after the fertilization, and all these parts means stigma, style and ovary collectively called as pistil, and pistil is the female reproductive part of the flower. The question will arise in your mind that where is the male reproductive part of the flower? So a male reproductive part is also present here. As you can see, the ball like a small ball like structure called anther. This is anther and anther produces pollen, the male gametes. As we have studied earlier that ovule is the female gamete and and pollen grains are the male gamete, and pollen grains are produces in the anther. On the downside of the anther, there is a presence of filament, the style like. So a male reproductive part is also present here. As you can see, the ball like a small ball like structure called anther. This is anther and anther produces pollen, the male gametes. As we have studied earlier that ovule is the female gamete and and pollen grains are the male gamete, and pollen grains are produces in the anther. On the downside of the anther, there is a presence of filament, the style like the stalk like structure. As you can see here, this is the filament. And what the filament do? Filament is the supportive stalk that holds up the anther. To hold the anther and to protect the anther is the to hold the anther and to support the anther is the primary part of the primary function of the filament. And anther and filament both collectively called as stamen. Stamen is the male reproductive part of the flower. Anther and filament both collectively called as stamen, and it is the male reproductive part of the flower. I hope every point is clear now. Moving on. Let's review. Here is the assessment. You need to answer all these parts of the flower that we have learned today. Next point, next topic is pollination. What the pollination is? It is the transfer of pollen grains from anther to stigma of the flower. As you can see, here is the flower. This is the pistil part, that is female reproductive part of the flower, and this is the anther and filament part, that is the male reproductive part of the flower. Self-pollination is the transfer of pollen grains from anther to stigma of the same flower. It means, as you can see here, the pollen grains are transferring to the stigma from the anther. Here is the anther and here is the present and pollen grains are present here. So pollen grains will get transferred to stigma from the anther. This process is happening in the same flower. That's why it is called as self-pollination. There are two types of pollination, that is self-pollination and cross-pollination. Okay, and we have learned from this picture that the transfer of pollen grains from anther to stigma of the same flower of the same plant is called as self-pollination. Next is cross-pollination. What is cross-pollination? It is the transfer of pollen grains from anther of the one flower to the stigma of the another flower. As you can see, this is a picture of cross-pollination. Here are two flowers are present. And the moment, as you can observe closely, you will observe, as you look at the flower closely, you will observe that the pollen grains are get transferred from anther to stigma, but the flowers are different. As you can see, the pollen grains from the one flower get transferred to the stigma of the another flower. This type of pollination called as cross pollination. I hope you are getting the idea. It's all clear. Next point is fertilization. What is fertilization? We all know that seed is formed from ovule, and ovule is present in the ovary. It means fertilization process take place in the ovary, and we know that ovule, as we know that ovule is the female gamete, and pollen grains are the male gamete. The pollen grains will come to the ovule, as you can see here in the picture that here is the pollen grain and this is the stigma and this is the style. Pollen grains will travel through the style to reach the ovule through ovary, and here is the fertilization process take place. This is what means the fertilization. It means the fusion of male and female reproductive cells so that the seeds can develop. Why it is important? It is essential for maintaining the diversity of plant species, functioning of ecosystem and food production. So it is important because we have to maintain the diversity in the plants. Next, this is the recap what we have learned in the process. Okay, this all the process of not the process, this is the structure of flower we have studied, and after that what the pollination is. When there is a sexual reproduction, the first process is the pollination. After that fertilization take place. After that growing of the embryo take place. uh, we have studied the fundamentals here in the topic called structure of flowers. We have learned that how many structures are there in the flower and what is the function of each part of the flower. Because in flower there is so many parts. There are so many in flower. There are so many parts. Some are accessory parts. Some are necessary part. and each part perform their specific function. Each part is important in the flower. That's why we studied the structure of flower. After that, as we are learning sexual reproduction in flowering plants, sexual reproduction start from the process called pollination. Pollination is the very first process of sexual reproduction. And what as we can see, what we have learned in the pollination process, it is the transfer of pollen grains from anther to stigma. There are two types of pollination: cross pollination and self pollination. In self pollination, we have learned that the transfer of pollen grains from anther to stigma happen in the same flower. But in another type of pollination, that is cross pollination, we have learned that the transfer of pollen grains from anther to stigma happen in the two different flowers. Okay, after that we have learned about fertilization. What is fertilization? The fusion of male and the female gamete is called fertilization. So, and it is happening in the ovary of the plant. I hope this was all about the sexual reproduction. I hope this is the basic concepts of this is basic concept of sexual reproduction in flowering plants. I hope you get the idea and each and every point that I have explained is clear to you. Thank you.